And welcome to The Rock. Dima, Mixon, Devin, Witson here. This is the Tuesday after show after Southern Miss 0, Kentucky 31. We both had a chance to watch the game on Saturday night. It was in the wee hours of the morning, Devin, so we didn't get a lot of sleep.
Oh, no.
But I know that I can't really complain because I know this team didn't get really any sleep. I think they got back at somewhere near 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, something like that. But we're going to do this every week. We're going to kind of switch it up a little bit this year. So what we're going to do is we're going to have our instant reactions still after the game on Saturday nights, if we can get to them. It was way too late Saturday night, so I wasn't going to make Devin get on a Zoom call at 1 in the morning.
Trust me, people. It was just too late.
And so, but we're going to come back on Tuesdays and do the Tuesday after show. And this is going to be a pretty lengthy video. We're going to almost use this as like a podcast sort of thing, kind of our just like extended analysis after rewatching the game. So we're calling this the Tuesday after 31 Kentucky, Southern Miss 0. So I guess, Devin, just when you look at the game as a whole, you see a lot of things on Twitter right now that's just doomsday, Southern Miss is terrible, 0-12, the world is ending, all of these things that we're normally used to seeing. But I mean, when I think about the game, I think about there was a good bit of positives you can take away from that game on Saturday night.
Honestly, there was a lot of good things that I would say there were positives on the night. Because here's the thing: Southern Miss are not a bad team. It's just the opponent. Kentucky, as I said in the videos last week when we mentioned Kentucky, this is Kentucky's best roster in honestly who really knows. They just came out. They did their thing. I mean, the D line for Kentucky. I mean, arguably one of the best D lines in all of college football. Maybe in the SEC. Debatable. We'll have to see where Kentucky will go this season. Who knows? Maybe time will tell. Maybe this game was the starting point for Kentucky's run to the college football playoff. You never know. But in general, it's not like they played bad. I mean, there's mistakes at times. I mean, there was, 1, 2, 3, 4 weather delays before we even got to start the actual game. Mm-hmm. So, obviously, there was mistakes from either team. I mean, for example, first play for Kentucky, Vandergriff throws an interception, which, I mean, if we can go on a little tangent about the interception, a very, very important moment.
Yeah, so it's so hard to gauge a game. And we were just talking to offensive coordinator Chip Long, and I'm sure we'll get into the offense and the defense here in this video. But we were just talking to him, and we were saying, how hard is it to gauge an offensive performance that they had on Saturday night when there's only, I think they only had, 33 snaps.
Yeah.
And 15 of those were on one drive. And then they had the 4-play drive to open the game that ended up in the interception. So that's half the game right there, Devin. And it's just so hard to gauge. But you're right. The weather delay certainly didn't help. Anytime you're the away team, and Will Hall kind of mentioned this on Eagle Hour yesterday and certain other networks that he's been on since the game, when you're the away team, for example, if that happened here at Southern Miss, they can go back into the athletic center here and go sit in their locker room. But I'm sure if an away team in their locker room, sitting in a cinder block little room, almost feels like you're in prison, just sitting there waiting for a game to start. It doesn't start until, I think it was 9:05 here, so that would have been 10:05 their time. When you get that late, I mean, you're really concerned about a lot of things at that point. And, I think that played into it. But when you look at the actual game, let's start with the quarterback play. Tate Rodemaker was the starting quarterback for Southern Miss, and we were all knew that was to be the case. We were just waiting for it to be official. And now it's officially official, so now we can label Tate Rodemaker as the starting quarterback. Yeah. I'm going to pull up his stats here, Devin, but when you think about his demeanor in the pocket, the way he was able to, I think the second interception was a pretty bad read, but that first one wasn't really his fault. 13 for 19, 126 yards, 2 interceptions, 2 sacks. Your grade on Tate Rodemaker?
Honestly, for it being the first time, I will give it a C-. I won't say Tate did bad, but there's a lot of things that can be improved on coming into just future games. I mean, he can sling it. That's definitely for sure. This is the first time we can really say that Southern Miss have a quarterback. They have the guy. I will say I believe Tate Rodemaker is still the guy that they're going to rely on heavily throughout the season because Tate has he has great pocket presence. I will say that personally. Now, when it comes to some of the decision making, it depends. I mean, for his first game, you'll have those mistakes. I mean, that's natural. Any new quarterback coming in from a big Power 5 program, now you're playing a Group of 5 ball. No, obviously not trying to say there's a massive difference, but it will take a little time just to get fully settled in when it comes to real in-game live ball snaps. So I will say that for his first performance, there was definitely a C-. Could be pumped up to a C with certain plays, but there is going to be a lot of room for improvement. And I will think that as we go on throughout the season, I think that Rodemaker, he's going to come out, he's going to show that, hey, I meant to be, I deserve to be that starter. He will play like it, and I feel like eventually in the future, we'll see a Tate that could possibly maybe challenge for being maybe a potential best QB in the Sun Belt, which it may be crazy to say right now because I know, as we talked about earlier, some Southern Miss fans are going, oh my goodness, it's doomsday, panic, we need everyone back, we need a clean house. It's one game. And I'm not trying to be the voice of reason, but it's only one game. This was kind of sort of expected against Kentucky. Again, it's an SEC school. I'm sure some people wanted the 2016 miracle to happen again. But that's just college football. That's just life. We're not always going to get what we want.
Yeah, I personally think Tate looked pretty good. I mean, I think he's a clear upgrade from last year. And there were some throws he made, and I thought that when he had the ability to stay in the pocket and he wasn't forced outside the pocket, which obviously is going to be in the season and needs to work on when he is. But when he was able to stay in the pocket, he delivered the throws. And I think it was almost immediate for me, okay, this is a different offense. As soon as Southern Miss got that pick, Dylan Lawrence got that pick on Kentucky's opening drive. It was a flea flicker and a 29-yard gain just immediately to Dennis Jackson. And Dennis Jackson, 30-yard gain right there. I mean, Southern Miss is already across the 50, Devin, and they're sitting there whoa, could they have done that last year? I don't know. So, I mean, I think you take it for what it's worth. I'd give him a B. I mean, you can't throw that interception in the end zone. I think he missed a couple reads. So that's why I would never give somebody who threw 2 interceptions an A. But I think you give him a B, anywhere between a B and a B plus, for Tate Rodemaker. And I expect him to be really good this weekend against Southeastern Louisiana, where Southern Miss looks to bounce back. Now, the offense, you have something?
Yeah, I wanted to at least talk about something else because I know one thing that I wanted to ask you was what's going to be this game, what's going to be the game plan when it comes to the run game? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Southern Miss had about 5 total yards rushing, which I know it's Kentucky. The D-line is amazing, honestly phenomenal. But one thing that I have concerns about, will this run game be any good? And I'm not saying that, they're not going to run the ball as good as they did last year because, I mean, yes, Frank Gore is gone. It is what it is. But when you only put up 5 yards of rushing, I feel like that's a little bit of a question mark and that you have to write down as a concerning talking point.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we just talked to Chip Long, offensive coordinator, and he was actually asked that question about the run game, and it was actually what I was going to ask you. So it is concerning. I think to me that was the most concerning part of the game on Saturday. I don't really think a lot of the areas where we went into the game thinking that they were going to be concerning were overly concerning as much as the run game. There was no push on the defensive line, and I understand that it's Kentucky, and they got down early, so now they're kind of forced to sling the ball around a little bit. They didn't have an even 15 when they had 33 plays. They didn't have an even 16 passing plays and 16 rushing plays. That's 32. I know I can do math, but so they didn't have the opportunity to run the ball, but there was just no push. There was nowhere for these players to run, and that to me was concerning. It's not really the total yardage. It's the fact that as soon as they go up the middle, I mean, there was just nothing there, and that to me is a area of concern going forward. Obviously, you're not going to face a defensive front like Kentucky again, but I mean, when you think of a South Florida defensive front, you think of a Louisiana defensive front, you think of everything that Texas State returns back on that defensive front. On some of these games where you really want to compete and win, you're going to have more than 5 yards rushing, Devin, and it's something that maybe a little bit more misdirection could solve. But I wouldn't take everything from the run game. It's like one of those things where it's it's kind of a little concerning, but it's so hard to gauge what the offense did because they only had 33 plays. So it's I want to be concerned about it, but I want to see an actual full game and see when they can actually, play at not 1 a.m. and see what happens. But yeah, the run game was a concern to me. That was probably the F of the day, in my opinion, was the run game. That and special teams. We'll get to special teams in a minute. But let's talk about the wide receivers because I thought they looked really good. I mean, I had no complaints with Dennis Jackson, Larry Simmons, Ty Mims. All of those players looked really good. And that was an area that was a big concern coming into this season. And I thought they delivered with flying colors.
And I definitely agree with that because the wide receiver core, amazing, phenomenal performers out there. they did all they could. Yeah, there was, at times, a couple drops here and there. Sometimes there may not have been a couple games, but overall, a very solid day. Well, solid night, I should say, for the wide receiver core. And if I can personally grade him, I'll give him B+. I do think that we're going to see more improvement. I mean, what it looks like now is that if you or someone agree, Will Hall and this offensive staff here, they want to go more passing. I mean, I feel like in recent years, obviously, because he had a talent like Frank Gore back there, they wanted to still run the ball with him because you got to feed someone like him. But now that they have their quarterback, they have the ability and they have the time to just, all right, now we can constantly pass it. Now we can, we have our mojo. We have the thing that we believe is going to get us forward. And I really feel like that's going to be a crucial point throughout the season. The wide receivers as a whole, doesn't matter who you can name, Larry Simmons, anybody. That's going to be one of the main talking points and one of the main things we're going to have to constantly keep our eye out. Who's the next wide receiver that could break out for Southern Miss? Because honestly, if you look at the wide receiver core, there's a lot of good players that could have that breakout season.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And it is worth noting that Dennis Jackson was not practicing today. He was in that red jersey, looked like a boot on his left leg. Will Hall did not have a comment on that after practice in his post-game or post-practice media comments. But yeah, I was really encouraged to see the wide receiver core. And like Devin said, there's a lot of players back there who didn't even get to play. I mean, I know they wanted to get Chandler Pittman more involved than they did. Ty Mims, I think, didn't really even have a target until the second quarter. So a lot of these players that I think Saturday especially you're going to see get loose and kind of get going. And they didn't really throw over the top a lot. It was a lot of slants and drag routes. Kyron Heath had that long, I think it was 3rd and 18. I think it was maybe the play of the game for Southern Miss. 3rd and 18 on their backed up in their own goal line, and Tate Rodemaker finds Kyron Heath for that 35 to 40 yard gain. I mean, that's stuff you love to see and stuff that's going to be working against especially Southeastern Louisiana who's coming in here Saturday and on and on. All right, let's go to defense now. I know it's 31-0, but I really think the defense played pretty good. I mean, if you think about what happened in that game, if you take away, if they score a touchdown or a field goal when they threw that interception in the end zone, Quez McNeil pick 6, you don't punt the ball 15 yards, I mean, it's a 17-14 game, and obviously you have to execute those plays, and that's something that Will Hall was talking about. But Devin, I mean, for what it's worth, I understand it's 31-0. The defense was on those short fields a lot. I mean, I thought they played pretty good.
They didn't play bad at all. I mean, obviously it's Kentucky. In general, it's just an SEC school. It's against SEC competition. So you're going to kind of expect for a defense to be challenged by, let's just say it, better competition, which not saying that, the defense is terrible. It's just kind of expected. They held their own very well for the most part. I mean, if you could grade them, Dima, and this is just as a whole, because we could go talk about, all right, D-line, linebackers, maybe secondaries, I would say they're in the C+, B- range, because there was those times that we saw the Nasty Bunts back at it, out in full force. And as Coach Hall said, there's a good amount of control, anger, and control rage that the defense have that, honestly, you could possibly see unleashed more and more as we get on with the season, because they've shown that the defense is improved. The D-line, honestly, it may sound crazy. I think they're one, at least top 6 best D-lines in all the Sun Belt.
Oh, no.
Which, I mean, let's be real. I really feel like that's what the defense is going to really rely on more and more as we get on through the season. Can the D-line set the tone, which is what's going to be needed. If the D-line can set the tone, then the linebackers can set the tone. If the linebackers set the tone, then you have the secondaries, which is probably one of the things that I want to ask you. Is the secondary still a point of concern for Southern Miss?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's so hard to gauge. Again, like I said a little bit ago, I mean, it's so hard to gauge. I mean, I didn't ever remember Kentucky really hitting them over the top with any long plays. It was more methodical drives. I mean, the only concerning thing that I thought about the defense was Kentucky had it just like faded out. Kentucky had 148 rushing yards in practically a half. So, I mean, that's not good. I mean, you can't have that. But, I mean, 149 passing yards in a half, that's that's not terrible against an SEC school, especially when the secondary was one of your biggest concerns. I thought Will James was probably the best player on the field, and again, he's the guy I'm driving the bus for, and this is who I said last week would have 2 interceptions in my bold predictions, but I thought he played amazing. And he's a freshman out there, and he looked really good. Dylan Lawrence, I thought it was fitting that Dylan Lawrence got the interception after running out the tunnel with Jay's jersey. He's the one who gets the first interception. I thought that was just, I mean, if it was a closer game, that would have been a really good sidebar story. But for him, and then so the run defense was a little concerning. Like, yeah, if we're going to grade the defense, I'd give it probably, like he's saying, a C+, B-. But again, it's so hard to gauge because they don't play a full game. I'm really excited to see them play, and it is, again, worth noting, Elijah Sabatini was also in a red jersey today with the boot on, and again, Will Hall did not have a comment on that as well. They don't generally have comments on injuries, and we just kind of have to play with it, but that's kind of the deal. But so we kind of think the offense was better than what appeared on the scoreboard. The defense was pretty good. There's some things to clean up, of course, and we'll probably talk to Clay Bignell, DC, tomorrow, and we'll have that for you. But special teams, Devin, big fat F.
Where do we begin? The punt, just honestly, that's what we're going to talk about. Special teams just honestly had a day to really just forget, and just honestly, like I'm sure some people in the fan base, they want to just forget this game and pretend like it never happened. And I'm sure the special team unit want to forget that. I mean, we can talk about the shank punts, we can talk about just overall bad kickoff coverage. It's just not the night that they want to remember. And against Southeastern, which obviously we're not going to bold predictions or just predicting, they will have a great chance to redeem themselves, but will they really redeem themselves? Because that's going to be the focus. You don't want that, your first punt really of the season to be a shank, and then it's like, all right, now I got to get myself out of the hole. I'm trying to not shank it again, because any special team, if you've been on special teams, I mean, not saying for personal experience, you don't want to have a repeat of that first mistake, because you will always remember your first mistake. It's kind of just common. I mean, in any sport, your first mistake you will remember, and it will kind of sit with you. You are probably going to think in the back of your mind, hey, I don't want this to happen again. I don't want this to just be another sign of, all right, it happened again. Now, how do I keep recovering for it? Because honestly, there is times, and I really believe that they will come back. They will come and improve. Honestly, we saw some good punts, honestly, earlier. We saw a couple of them. So they will have a chance to improve. I mean, I feel like they'll get their feet wet. They'll get settled more because, hey, they're here. They're at home. Great chance to get back on course. Great chance to get back focused. And they'll probably do a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the special teams was a big area of concern. Obviously, you had the shanked punt, the fake punt, the bad kickoff coverage, as you said. A lot of things to clean up on that spectrum of the game. And it'll be interesting to see what happens, coming into this week when the Golden Eagles take on the Lions of Southeastern Louisiana. So I do think it's worth noting that they get to kind of put that one behind them. And I kind of mentioned that to Chip Long, where they get to put that game behind them and just focus on the season, And I said this last year when they lost to Florida State in the way they did. I felt like they never really recovered from it. You had a lot of injuries. As bugs is flying in my hair, but they had a lot of injuries in that game. I just feel like if they would have had the Alcorn game in the middle of those 2 weeks, Tulane and Florida State, it would have been better. So that the fact that they're going to come here Saturday, we all expect them to win, kind of get that win before just a ginormous game next Saturday night against South Florida, which is really a litmus test for how this football team and football season will go. That one, and of course the Jacksonville State game. We'll have all that coverage for you here at s2media.com. We'll be back tomorrow with our bold predictions and keys to the game on Saturday, and then Thursday we'll be back for game picks for Southern Miss and Southeastern Louisiana. Any final thoughts on the Tuesday after show?
Honestly, I feel like the main thing that the one word we can really describe just what Southern Miss needs to do is just improve. As we said, this game, obviously against the FCS school in Southeastern, not a bad school in the FCS ranks, but it's really a test and really a game where, hey, let's see what we can do. What can we get figured out? What works? What doesn't work? Because honestly, this needs to be a game where Southern Miss can go out there, make a statement. Not saying it needs to be a statement just like how Tulane did, because last opponent for Southeastern was Tulane. They lost, I think, 55-0, 52-0. Thank you for the correction. And it's honestly something that needs to be talked about a lot more. And what is going to be this mentality that comes out this next Saturday night? Will it be a Southern Miss squad that wants to prove everyone wrong? Will it be a hungrier team? Because that's really been what, when I asked our coach, what was the mentality? Hungry. They want this. They don't believe that this is a bad team at all. And I'm frankly to agree. They're not a bad team at all. It's all about, can they improve? How will they respond? Because as you just mentioned, USF is right around the corner. And they have, as I mentioned, I think a lot of times, they're turned out to be one of the best Group of 5 teams out there this season. So honestly, for Southern Miss, you got to come out there and you got to swing. Just every play needs to be swinging for the fences. Hit hard, play rough. Well, not play rough, but you get my point. They got to just come in there and make a statement. Improvement is key, and I feel like it will be the best way for Southern Miss to get back on track and not only go 1-1, but who knows? Maybe they come out and finish this, out of conference stress, 3-1. You never know.
It's a must-win from Will Hall.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be there. We'll be there covering the game Saturday night, 6 p.m. kickoff on ESPN Plus. Southeastern Louisiana coming into town. Both teams 0-1. Southern Miss. I think the line was 23.5 or something like that when I saw it yesterday. And it'll probably move, obviously, by the time we do game picks. But we hope you'll stick around with us and read all of our coverage on SMTmedia.com. You'll get all of our writing stuff there. You can follow this channel or subscribe to this channel to get all of our video stuff. We like to do this. People like to watch it. We like to do it for y'all. So this was the Tuesday after show. Kentucky 31, Southern Miss 0. We'll be back tomorrow with our keys to the game on Saturday and our bold predictions. Both of our bold predictions weren't even close to coming true, but that's okay. That's why they're bold. So we'll be back. That's Devin Winston. I'm Dima Mixon. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.
Make sure you follow us on Twitter too.
And follow us on Twitter. We'll see you tomorrow.